Guys. All right.
That makes sense because obviously people could do that and hold it and then ask a lot of money for it. When somebody wants that trademark.
All right. We're doing it. We're going live. I'm going to mute y'all. I love you, but I'm going to mute y'all and then you can unmute whenever you want. Awesome. All right. Welcome everyone to the general session of the John Lavenia Success Mastermind Network. It is Tuesday, December 22nd. I am Stuart Wilde. I am humbled. I'm honored to be here with you guys today on the first day of the solar new year, day after winter solstice 2020. As Adrian and other facilitators will attest to, months ago, we had to sort of pick our days and select topics and things like that. And maybe some of you guys that are facilitating would agree that it was kind of a fun process looking through, the span of the rest of the year. I think we did that in like August or something like that when we started putting together all of our topics and our sessions and signing up for different days. And I remember seeing this day open, right? The last Tuesday before Christmas and close to the solstice. And I was like, oh, I want that day. And I just grabbed it, right? And so really for months, I've been kind of mulling over what I wanted to talk about today. And then as time went on, of course, we learned about the Great Conjunction as well. So yesterday was a really amazing day that had two really major celestial events, right? So not only do we have the winter solstice yesterday, but we also had a grand conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn in Aquarius. And we'll talk a little bit about those things later. But the solstice by itself is a wonderful, amazing, magical event. And if anybody was able to watch the sunrise yesterday or celebrate the solstice in any way, or watch one of the live streams from Stonehenge or New Grange, cool stuff. I'll share a little bit of my experience with you as well. But again, this conjunction by itself would be a huge deal. And because it happened on the winter solstice, it's even more, has more implications and is a much more, has much more powerful implications, I would say. So anyway, I'm really psyched to roll through this with you. Of course, I've been doing a lot of thinking, right? And a lot of research and all kinds of stuff and trying to put together a cool train of thought and some images and some cool factoids and try and really my intent today is to like unpack these events, right? So we got solstice, winter solstice, then we have the grand conjunction. But then we also have this thing about the Christmas star and the Star of Bethlehem. And so I kind of wanted to hit on that too. And we're going to get into like, cool math and astrology and archaeoastronomy and all kinds of cool stuff. And with that said, I got a presentation to share with you guys. And so I'm just going to roll on it and then we'll talk about stuff. All right, so I'm going to share my screen here. Whoop. There we go. And I'm going to do that. Look at that, guys. I'm going big today. Look at my title today. I better deliver, huh? Oh my God. So we're talking about winter solstice 2020, the Great Conjunction and the Star of Bethlehem. So, and the subtitle is Out of Darkness and the Triumph of the Human Spirit. Man, I think I wrote this like half asleep last night. I'm already like, wow, am I going to be able to deliver on this? All right, guys, ready? So yesterday morning, I woke up, well, actually, the night before last, I did watch the live stream of the sunset from Stonehenge, and I thought it was pretty cool, super beautiful, very inspiring. I tried to watch the sunrise from Stonehenge, but it was like 2:30 in the morning here, and I wound up falling asleep. But this is the sunrise yesterday morning, right over the mountain, right above our house. Now, how cool, right? You can see the sun cresting over the peak. And then I want you to check out to the left. I had a little visitor yesterday morning as I was watching the sunrise. Check this out. What? This is like taken a half a second apart from each other. Boom, boom. So anyway, you know, I don't want to get too into this, right? But I live here in New Mexico, right? Roswell, you know, UFOs, all kinds of stuff. These could have been orbs. I have no idea. Something's obviously reflecting the sun right in that mountain basin there at about 11,500 feet. So pretty interesting. So, you know, solstice is one of those things. Everybody's like, oh, it's solstice, but do we really know what solstice is, right? So it is the shortest day of the year and the longest night. It is based on the axial tilt and the wobble and the orbital position of the Earth, right? And so this is called axial precession, which is also known as the precession of the equinoxes. And this is essentially how it appears that the sun is moving through the various different signs of the zodiac, okay? It's also when the sun reaches its farthest north or farthest south point. So here in the Northern Hemisphere, the winter solstice is when the sun reaches its farthest southernmost point on the horizon before it reverses direction. Then you have what's called the estival solstice versus the hibernal, right? And if you look at those words, I bet you know which one is winter, right? The hibernal solstice, of course, is the winter. So check this out. There's this misconception that that the sun is farther away and that's why it's so cold. But believe it or not, the sun's about 3 million miles closer to the Earth during the winter solstice. And so today, again, is the first day of what's called the tropical New Year, which essentially is marked from solstice to solstice as opposed to the sidereal year, which is the sun moving through the constellations, which is a little bit longer. I want to do a quickie etymology because I'm all about words. You guys know I love words and origins of words and roots of words, right? So of course, we know what equinox is, right? So equa is equal, nox means night, right? So solstice, right? You break that down. And then of course, sol is the sun, right? So you would think that it would be like something about, you know, shortest day, something about, you know, the sun's, you know, shortest day. Check this out. This is going to blow your mind. So the other part of this word is sisteri, which means stand still. Okay, so solstice means sun stands still. Okay, and I don't know if you guys know this, but from today, tomorrow, and the next day, up until Christmas morning at midnight, the sun rises and sets in the same location in the horizon. Put a yes or a no in the chat box that I can't even see if you knew that that's what's up. So on the horizon, the sun essentially appears to pause for 3 days, 22, 23, and 24. And then it makes its journey back to its northernmost or sort of southernmost point. Okay, here's a cool visual. Okay, so this is the solstices and the equinoxes, okay? And so you can see that the Earth has a tilt, right? We know that it has like a 23.5 degree tilt. You can see that to the far right, the winter in the Northern Hemisphere, we're in much more shadow. And so that is our shortest days, less daylight, colder, etc. And of course, if you were in the Southern Hemisphere, then it would be the opposite. And, you know, you would be having summer when I'm sorry, you'd be having summer when the poles are facing towards the sun. And then of course the equinoxes are equal day and equal night. Okay, let's see here. And here's a cool thing to check out. Okay, so I don't know if you know this, but not only does the Earth, of course, rotate around the sun on its axis, but the actual tilt of the Earth, this wobble, right, this axial wobble, makes it so that the North Pole is Polaris, but then it also swings over to Vega. And this happens every 13,000 years, okay? And it takes a full 26,000 years. And if these numbers are like, ooh, these sound like Mayan calendar numbers and all kinds of interesting stuff, you know, the ages and the yugas, this is all pretty interesting math that ancient cultures were very well aware of. So check it out. What is that? What is that? 15,014, then we're looking at the North Star being Vega. And then the solstices swap, right? And so summer solstice and winter solstice swap. And then the North Pole, eventually it takes 26,000 years for that wobble to complete. And that is how long it takes for the sun to move through, or appear to move through, all the constellations in the zodiac. And this is a 26,000 year cycle. Essentially, it takes 2,100 years about for what's called an age, right? And it takes 2,100 years for the sun to move through one precession, and then times that by 12, and you get 26,000 years. And that is the long cycle of the precession of the equinoxes. Pretty interesting. Then I want to talk a little bit about archaeoastronomy, right? We have megalithic structures that ancient cultures built, right? And these are essentially astronomical celestial observatories. We've got mounds, we've got henges, we've got temples and pyramids, right? These are all built with just an amazing, incredible, unbelievable level of skill, precision, and measure. And it's my belief that the mysteries of the universe are encoded in these megalithic structures in mathematics and geometry, okay? There's all kinds of cool magic numbers. And if you guys know more magic numbers, different cultures kind of have different ways of looking at things, right? I don't know if you know this, but the sun and the moon go on a 33-year lunar solar cycle. It takes 11 years for the sun and the moon to have a year, but the lunar year is different than the solar year. And so it takes 3 11-year cycles for those guys to match back up again. Then you got numbers like 13, right? And 13 is like the weeks in a season. It's the number of months in a year, right? So that 13, the 26, and then the 52,000, these are all like the long count in the Mayan calendar. You got 12 and 24, which is like the Hindu yugas. We get our 12 and 24-hour day from that. Some people believe that the Kali Yuga is ending. Other people, I've read other things that say we're still in the Kali Yuga. Some of you guys know what's up with the yugas and the ages. Feel free to chime in later. The ancient Sumerians had essentially a 60-based mathematical system with 12s and 5s. These are all the keys to understanding all these ancient megalithic structures, right? So you got the 300 and the 360, which is spherical, right? And so essentially, they took 360 degrees, right? Or, you have 365. So the ancient cultures, 366 was actually the number of degrees in a circle. They took that and they were able to calculate what they called a megalithic yard and then a megalithic rod. And if you look at some of this stuff, this is how Stonehenge, these are the dimensions of Stonehenge and some of these ancient megalithic structures. And they go back to these ancient measurements that go back thousands and thousands of years. And then, of course, talk for another day, sacred geometry, platonic solids, our buddy Pythagoras and Euclid. Those guys were really, they believed that that there was proof of a higher intelligence based on the mathematics and geometry being the blueprint of the universe. Really pretty cool stuff. We'll talk about that another day. Here's a secret. Constellations in the zodiac are so named and configured in order to communicate information over generations and millennia, right? And that's things like human nature and life lessons, the cycles of nature, the seasons and the times of the year, which of course is important for you to know when to plant, when to harvest, when to hunt, when to fish, how to plan. Talk about organized planning, right? If it's all about survival, that's a pretty big deal. How to plan for your future. Do you guys ever wonder how come the constellations don't look anything like what they're supposed to be? And the reason why is because it's more about marking where the sun is on the horizon during the different times of year. And then the ancients would just look and see where the sun was, and they essentially divided up, the year into 12s, 12 houses, right? 12 signs of the zodiac. And then based on, let's say, the time of year, the things that you would be doing that time of year, then that's what they name those constellations after. It's pretty interesting. So check this. So we're back to the zodiac, and I won't do too much, but this is essentially the path of the solar hero. Okay, so check this out. So we go from Capricorn, okay, which is the goat, right, or the sea goat, really, and there's some interesting implications there. Sandy was just talking about her goats, right, and her barn. So essentially, the new year, the solar new year is in Capricorn. Then we go to the water bear, Aquarius, which is in many parts of the world, and especially in the ancient world, this was the rainy season. And then, of course, after it rains, there's plenty of water, and you want to go fishing. And then in the springtime, the rams and the sheep are lambing, right? It's also the Passover, so you have the Paschal lamb and things like that. Then in April, you've got Taurus, the bull. You hitch up your plow, and you're going to go plow your fields. Then you got Gemini, which represents increase, right? And so your seeds that you've sown are starting to multiply. Then you got Cancer, the backwards walker. Check this, right? So that's the summer solstice. Now the sun starts moving backwards, crab walks, right? Very interesting. Then you got Leo, the lion, the strongest time of the summer when the sun is, the hottest, like a lion kind of thing. Then you've got Virgo. Check this out. She's got a sheath of wheat, right? So Virgo is the beginning of the harvest. Then Libra is actually the scales of measuring the harvest. Then you got Scorpio that stings the sun, and the sun starts to die and go back, and you have autumn and everything goes back. Then Sagittarius is the time when you go hunting because there's nothing to harvest, and then the whole thing starts all over again. So that's a like super quickie, cool stuff. If you haven't ever like heard that, drop a whoa in the chat, because that just kind of blows my mind, honestly. So again, ancient cultures, in my understanding, in my belief, had a very deep understanding of the cycles of nature and the seasons of the year. They had a knowledge and understanding of high math and sophisticated engineering that we really still don't even understand today, how a lot of these structures were built. These guys also had an understanding of astrology and astronomy that could only come from really long-term observation and recording of these long-term cycles. Remember, 26,000 years for a full cycle of the precession of the equinoxes, right? So I was mentioning to Bill in a chat not too long ago that to me this implies that civilization is probably a lot older than we think. All right, Bill, this is for you, buddy. This is New Grange. This is for those of you that missed the solstice sunrise yesterday. Okay, so this is New Grange in Ireland. I read 5,200 years. This is a mound structure with cool channels and tunnels that line up with the solstice. I also read that there was a calendar that marked the passage of Venus every 8 solstices, and this is how they came up with the megalithic yard. And we're able to calculate the polar circumference. This is like 5,200 years old. And I don't know, I read 5,700 somewhere. So I'm going to say, just to be, give props to Bill and the Irish, we'll call it 5,700 years old on New Grange. Cool stuff. This one is Maeshowe, another dome, another mound structure in Scotland. They've also found like a 10,000-year-old lunar calendar, which is like a pit calendar up there that marked the lunar months. Unbelievable stuff. Here is sunset from Stonehenge. Just fantastic. This is probably from a few years ago, but I got to watch the live stream yesterday. I thought it was pretty cool. This is the Temple of Amun at Karnak in Luxor in Egypt. Again, sunrise on winter solstice right through the right over the obelisk and through the keyhole there. Pretty amazing. You got to give props to ancient people, man. This stuff blows my mind big time. This is in Tulum in the Yucatan in Mexico, in southern Yucatan on the Caribbean coast. Tulum is a Mayan ruin, super cool. Leah and I've been there. This is sunrise, winter solstice at Machu Picchu. Notice the portal window with the little, sunlight rectangle through the portal there. This is Chaco Canyon here in New Mexico. This is kind of my backyard. And so this is maybe about 1500 years old. And so they have these windows where the sun shines right through on sunrise on winter solstice and other celestial events. Again, just blows my mind. Okay, so here's my take on solstice, you guys. All right, we're talking about um, understanding the cycles of nature. We're talking about renewal and return and the cycles of life and death and rebirth. And this is essentially the eternal dance between light and dark, the yin and the yang, right? The return of the light, Sol Invictus. This means the invincible sun. And it's really kind of a metaphor for, the sun that will not die and just keeps coming back, right? The theme of this year is also, or of this time of year is also sacrifice, right? So I think a lot about, what's the price that we want to pay for our desires and seeing our wish fulfilled, right? And Napoleon Hill tells us that we should know the cost and we should know the price, and we should write down what we're willing to pay, to have our wish fulfilled and our desires manifested and transmuted. And then I think about service, and I think about the gifts of the Magi this time of year, right? So this is like, to me, this is a metaphor for giving, right? These guys, they traveled all this distance, followed the star, came and saw the Christ child, and what did they do? They brought gifts, right? So they gave of service of themselves. And so I just think it's pretty interesting, and that's a cool lesson and a cool metaphor for all of us. So that's my take on solstice, okay? I got another take on solstice. So this goes to like the Hermetic principles, okay? So the principle of rhythm speaks to the ebb and flow, and we can talk about the celestial tides, right? Of the celestial bodies, the moon and the sun, but essentially, or especially, the swinging of the pendulum between light and dark, and solstices, winter and summer. The principle of polarity means that everything moves between opposites in degrees, right? And so you have poles, right? So you have light and dark, you got summer and winter. If you were to look at that like heat and cold, where does heat begin and cold end, right? And so all things tend to be on degrees, good, bad, right? Where do you just like something, right? So it's all very interesting on these scales. The principle of correspondence, of course, says as above, so below. So if we're going to look at stuff up in the heavens and make these, epiphaneic realizations about things that are going on in the heavens above us, let's also realize that those same principles apply to us internally in our personal growth, right? So I see solstice this time of year, and we've talked about this for weeks, all of us, right? This is an opportunity for personal growth and healing, a time for introspection, self-reflection, self-evaluation. I like to call, going within, doing some night swimming. You guys ever hear that? Kind of going into your dark side and your shadow. You got to confront your fears. You got to deal with your shadow, right? Our shadow selves. This is all very interesting metaphor for this time of year. And it's also an opportunity for us to set goals and make a plan, and of course take action to achieve our goals. Okay, so that's solstice. Who remembers conjunction junction, right? I see Julia's hand there. Anybody in the US that's probably over 40, probably remembers the old Schoolhouse Rock. And if you haven't ever seen those, you can check them out on YouTube. But when I thought of the conjunction, of course, my goofy brain goes, oh, conjunction junction, what's your function, right? So a little bit of light humor in the middle of our talk today. So this is looking to the southwest from our house. And so Leah and I went out last night and we took some photos of the conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn. I wonder if I can, no, I can't quite zoom in on that, but if you look really close, you can see there are two planets there, right? Jupiter is the larger one, Saturn is the less bright one. And then here I zoomed in, or I got a different photo. But boom, so that's what the conjunction looked like last night from here. And on some of the photos that we took and with our binoculars, we were able to see the rings on Saturn. We were able to see moons of Jupiter. I mean, it was really just unbelievable and super amazing, really cool. So if you're wondering what was actually happening, this is kind of what was going on, right? So Jupiter and Saturn were kind of lining up. They were not quite in a straight line. They were a little bit offset. They're about 1/10 of a degree offset. And so they appear to be touching, conjoined, conjunction, okay? I want to talk a little bit about, so here's another great little visual, okay? So this is actually what was going on during the conjunction. And of course, you can still see the conjunction. It just won't be as close as it was yesterday. So this says it's 6 arc minutes of difference between the angle there of Jupiter and Saturn. And essentially, here we go. So it's an alignment between Jupiter and Saturn. I want to mention the difference between conjunction versus an occlusion. So an occlusion is like an eclipse, okay? A conjunction is just next to, okay? If Jupiter had actually passed in front of Saturn, then that would have been an occlusion. So these great conjunctions happen in 20-year cycles at varying distances. And we're talking hundreds of millions of miles in distance. They alternate conjunction and opposition. So check this. 10 years ago, Jupiter and Saturn were in direct opposition of each other. Now they come close together. So every 10 years, they talk about polarity and the law of rhythm and things like that. So every 10 years, Jupiter and Saturn either are conjoined or opposing. Now check this. Every 200 years, that conjunction moves through an element on the zodiac, which is 3 or 4 symbols, right? So I want to say earth, water, air, and fire, EWAF, okay? So every 200 years, the great conjunction becomes what they call a great mutation, okay? And so this is actually, we're in a great mutation right now, which is even cooler than a great conjunction. So, to me, this is all about like the transmutation, the transformation, right, of consciousness of ourselves, you know, transmuting our desires into their physical equivalents. So the cool thing about this is that this is the closest this conjunction has been in 800 years. Since 1623 was the last one where it was this close. This, in my opinion, this conjunction 800 years ago sparked the Renaissance and you know, enlightened thinking and all kinds of cool stuff. So the distance of the conjunction at arm's length, you could hold a pinky out and it would be about a pinky width between them, or 1/5 of a full moon, or 1/10 of a degree. Now, when we say close, like, oh, it's the closest it's ever been, I read like 400 million to 600 or 700 million miles apart. So when we say close, right, it's all relative. And then this conjunction is happening in Aquarius. And so it's moving into an air sign. And it's pretty fascinating. Again, everything is talking about great mutation and potentially, you know, ever since we saw hair. Again, I don't know if the UKers you know what that is too, but there was this movie back in the 1970s, kind of about the hippie era or whatever. And of course, the song that everybody knows, "This is the dawning of the age of Aquarius." So I think we are actually entering into Aquarius. These things take long cycles, so it's hard to say like, oh, now we are, or whatever it is. But it's very interesting that this conjunction is actually happening in Aquarius. So there you go. These are 2 gas giants. Of course, you got Jupiter on the left and Saturn on the right. How beautiful, just amazing. Got to give props to the planets. The storms on Jupiter. If you've ever seen like some of the NASA footage of how those rings of storms move in different directions and the big eye and just unbelievable. And I don't know if you know this, but there's actually a perpetual hexagram on the North Pole of Saturn that has storms moving all inside of it, and through cymatics and some of this cool like hydrology, this perfect hexagram is always kept on the North Pole of Saturn. And there's also an aurora that comes out of there. Just amazing stuff. So why should we care about this stuff? It's like, oh, it's cool, whatever, you know, oh, look, the planets are close together, right? So here's my premise, you guys. If our electromagnetic field can affect or influence, ooh, I've got 2 T's there, you like that, can affect and influence other people's EMFs through our thoughts, our emotions, our vibrations. And Adrian, do you like my little logical Socratic proof here, right? So and we can be affected and influenced by other people's EMFs, and celestial bodies, which also have EMFs, can affect and influence each other, then those celestial electromagnetic fields can affect and influence us. Okay, so this is why we should care. And to me, this is what, you know, for many, many years, I kind of poo-pooed astrology and all, like, oh, whatever, it's just, you know, some woo-woo, you know, hippie thing or whatever it was. And the more, especially honestly in recent months, right, through our understanding that thoughts are things and that, you know, our electromagnetic fields can be affected by and affect others, the more I thought about the influences of the stars and celestial bodies, whether you're just talking, you know, gravitational waves, but also electromagnetic waves, right? So cool stuff. So check this. This is an actual NASA image of the electromagnetic field of the Earth. That's Jupiter, NASA style. Okay, this is actually, if you could see what is happening electromagnetically on, you know, not only on each of us, but our own planet and the planets around us, right? So imagine Jupiter and Saturn, right, coming close enough to each other that those magnetic fields are all resonating and working with each other on, and having influences on us. It really just kind of blows my mind. I'm going to go back to that because look at that. Again, there's Earth. Now we have this incredible magnetosphere that actually protects us from the cosmic rays of the Earth. And that's why it looks so crazy like that. Jupiter, and there's moons, Europa, Thebe, Amalthea. Unbelievable. And that's Saturn, okay? So I want to talk for a minute about astro mythology, okay? So here's the other secret is the attributes and personalities of the gods were based on the different attributes and energies and the vibrational fields and influences of the planets, right? So the answer to the question, which came first, the god or the planet, I'm arguing that the planet came first in terms of how ancient astronomers observed and witnessed and experienced the different attributes and energies of these planets. And then there were stories and mythology written to put these stories in the sky. Okay, so check this. Okay, so this is our Jupiter-Saturn conjunction. We're going to tell a little story here, okay? So Saturn, if you didn't know, is Chronos, okay? So in Greek, Chronos is father time, okay? Saturn in Roman. So in Latin, believe it or not, Satis means to sow. How cool is that, right? So this is the root of Saturn. He's the god of agriculture, wealth, prosperity, and plenty. But also the god of time, life, and death, right? So it's where we get our images of Father Time and the Grim Reaper. He also represents control, order, and authority, focus, precision, goals, and career. He's said to have ruled over a golden age. Then you have the festival of Saturnalia, which actually ended on the solstice, which is like the happiest time in the Roman year. They lax all the laws. Masters and slaves are equal. They can gamble in the, you know, gambling is legal, all this stuff. So Saturnalia is like a big party. And then check this, in Hebrew, Shabbatai is Sabbath, is Saturn. And of course, Shabbat is Sabbath. And it's where we get Saturday from, which of course is, you know, for Saturn. Very interesting. And check this, then you get Jupiter, which is also Zeus, identical, okay? So in Proto-Indo-European, Deu means bright or light. This is where you get, and then it essentially evolves like this. Deus, Jeus, Deus, Tiu. Now this is where I was hoping to have Adrian along with us today. So today is actually Tuesday. Okay, so Tiu is the Norse god that had his hand bitten off by the Fenris wolf. Very interesting story. But there you go. So that's where Tiu comes from. And then you get Deus or Dias, which is also where you get Dios and deity from. Now check this, right? So you get Jeu, which means sky or bright or light. And then you get Pater, which means father. So Jupiter or Jupiter means sky father, okay? So Jupiter or Zeus is the top of the pantheon, the king of the gods. He's the sky god, the god of light, represents the forces of nature, lightning, thunderstorms. He's a protector god. He supposedly is the god of morality and conscience and justice. And he's known as Optimus Maximus, the best, greatest. They call him Jupiter Triumphator, the triumphant. Jupiter Invictus, the invincible, right? Unbelievable. And notice I put like exclamation points because like, you know, these are not words to be taken lightly, okay? So now we're going to tell a little story, okay? This is cool stuff. Ready? So Pluto, all the way out there on the upper right, Pluto we know is Hades, right? And of course, you know, put something in the chat if you think Pluto should be a planet or not, right? But Pluto is officially no longer a planet. So the second one in is Uranus, okay? Or Uranus, right? And of course, we used to call it something else when we were less mature, right? So Uranus is the primordial god of the universe, okay? And then Gaia, who is Earth, right? The third planet there. Uranus and Gaia had Saturn. Saturn was the king of the Titans, right? Saturn kills Uranus, or Kronos kills Salus, right? And later, Kronos or Saturn is worried that his own children, he gets a prophecy that his own children are going to kill him. And so he eats his children. Very interesting, life and death and rebirth. He eats his children, and Gaia and his wife Rhea get mad that he ate all the children. And so they hid Zeus or Jupiter away so that he couldn't get eaten, right? And then Jupiter grows up, and then he grows up and kills Saturn. So very interesting stuff, right? So this is like the mythology in the sky. And to me, when I think about Jupiter conjoining with Saturn, right, then you're looking at the light is Jupiter, right? And the, here, let's see, so there's this interesting father-son struggle, you know, and I have to say, yesterday when I was looking at this, it looked to me like there was a battle in the sky, right? And to me, what this symbolizes is the old God versus the new God, the light versus the darkness, the triumph of the human spirit. We're talking about a paradigm shift and a great awakening. And those of you, I wasn't on book club last night, but I know that you talked about paradigm on book club. So I think it's timely and auspicious. Again, as above, so below, right? So if we're going to talk about these things that are happening in the heavens, we're also talking about things that happen here on earth and even things within ourselves, right? So we're talking about freedom and free will versus tyranny and control. And we're also looking at alignment, right, of our goals and our purpose. And then we'll bust quickly into the Christmas Star of Bethlehem, okay? So a lot of people say that this grand conjunction was the grand conjunction that led the Magi or the three wise men to the manger to find the newborn Christ. And so people have gone back and done whatever it is, mapping, and they've gone back and found that there was in fact a grand conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn in about 7 BC. And then there was also occlusions. The moon occluded Jupiter and Venus at different times in about 6 AD. So there's a lot of evidence to support that that this conjunction is in fact the Christmas star that the wise men followed. And then there's other stuff. So check it out. Those three stars on the right. Do you know what those three stars are? They kind of look like the Great Pyramids, right? And their spacing. And those of you that know that that is the belt, the three stars in the belt of Orion, which, believe it or not, for thousands of years, going back to Egyptian times, have been called the Three Kings. Okay, so the Three Kings of Orion's belt point almost directly to Sirius, which represents Osiris and Isis and things like that. And if you follow that trajectory, that points almost directly to the place of the rising sun on winter solstice. And I checked this out last night, and I went out and photographed Orion. I didn't take this picture. I couldn't get a good picture. But you can see the three stars, the three kings pointing to Sirius. And then if you follow that trajectory and you're talking about December 21st, in theory, you're going to be pretty darn close to where the sun comes up on winter solstice. Pretty amazing. So let's talk about Epiphany for a quick second here. And so the Epiphany, and those of you that are Christians and Catholics know more about this than I do, but this is the great revelation when the Magi, when Christ revealed himself, right? And the actual translation of Epiphany means the manifestation of Christ, which I just thought was very interesting. Of course, we see an epiphany as an aha moment, right? And I definitely had an aha moment as I was going through some of this stuff. And so what this means to me, or how I interpret this for me, is like, what can I do to tap into that, Christ energy, that Christ consciousness inside of myself? Can I be of service? How can I be the highest version of myself? How can I shine my light and make the world a better and brighter place? And so this is actually the solar dagger on a spiral on the wall of Pueblo Bonito in Chaco Canyon here in New Mexico. So that's another New Mexico. And there we go, you guys, look at that. And I know I went long today, but I'm glad that we got through it. What do you think of all that? I know Bill's had his hand up for like a half hour. What's up, Bill? How you doing, buddy? Happy Solstice. Happy Samhain, brother.
Yeah, all those to you, Matt. That was absolutely awesome. You have control of everybody's microphones, don't you?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, unmute them for me for one experiment.
I think everybody is unmuted. Oh no, let's see.
No.
I have to.
Can you? Oh, have you got to do it individually?
I'm just asking everybody to unmute. You'll have to do it individually.
Everybody unmutes, and on the count of three, I think this man deserves.
Oh, absolutely.
Applause.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Hey, well done, Stuart.
Oh my God. Amazing.
Yeah, amazing, Professor.
Wow.
Brother, that
You killed it, man.
I'm going to mute myself so you don't hear me.
Stuart, that was absolutely awesome. Absolutely unbelievable, man. Never mind the amount of work that went into what you've just done and delivered. The amount of knowledge that we've all gained from it there today is phenomenal. I mean, this sort of stuff gets me every time, and the more I learn about it, the more you want to learn about it. It just keeps grabbing you and grabbing you. Unfortunately, I didn't get to see the conjunction last night in a different area, so the sky wasn't as easily viewed. But all this stuff, I mean, it even goes to the thing. I was thinking about this when you started talking about it earlier, Stuart, that, I can still do it. I can come out, and I'm sure most people here can. You go out and you'll know when it's going to rain. You'll sense it. You don't need to be looking at the weather chart or listen to somebody on Channel 9 or whatever. We'll know when it's going to rain, I mean, I've been munching away at seaweed here today. There's an old Irish saying, seaweed's a great weather indicator when you hang it up outside. If it's dry, it's sunny. If it's wet, it's raining, Remember where you heard it first. But all the stuff you've done there today, man, was just awesome. And the only thing I'll leave everybody with, all the stuff that Stuart talked about there at the end about the battles between the gods, mythos, Stephen Fry. Check it out. Mythos. It's on Audible. I've listened to it twice. It takes ages, but see, when you go out for a walk and you listen to all the stories of all the gods, the Greek gods, man, it'll blow your mind. Stuart, thanks again, mate. That was superb.
Thank you. And I know you and I have kind of had this back and forth about ancient cultures for a little while, and thanks for standing up for Newgrange there, man, and making sure that we represented Ireland for sure, man. Thank you. Yeah. Oh my God, you guys. Who else we got? We got Jody. What's up, Jody? What's on your mind today? What do you think of all this stuff?
That was insane. I mean, bravo. Stuart, you pulled together 10 different classes and courses and crammed them into this one little, very well put, very well documented, explained. It was amazing, but I know most of us are going to have to look at this again because it's overload. And just thank you. And we watched it last night. We were able to see with our eye like you did outside, which was amazing. And the University of Illinois Springfield ran a live Zoom that they filled up to 300 in about a minute and a half, but they did it from their observatory and through their telescope. So we were able to watch it with them also, which was really, really cool. And unfortunately, the person who told us about this couldn't get on because it filled so fast. So we felt a little guilty, but it was very cool. And they kept it open for questions and answers in the chat room. So these expertise did it, but you pulled it together, and you always bring your A game. So thank you. Excellent. Excellent.
Thank you. Wow. So you were at an observatory. So they let everybody go up and
Well, this was on a Zoom call for the observatory. So they just
but
broadcast.
were they able to show through the telescope on the?
Yeah. The rings, it was really spectacular. And I'm embarrassed to say we have a 12-inch Meade telescope that we used in New Mexico, which just blows everything out of the water, but it takes about an hour and a half to set up. And we completely lost time and didn't get to do it. So, but it was really cool. I'm sure there's a lot of YouTubes on it now, though. It was great.
That's amazing. Thank you so much, Jody. And to your point and Bill's, I learned a lot. These are things that I've been interested in and fascinated by for much of my life, and the opportunity to kind of try and take all that information and distill it down into I know it was like 40 minutes or whatever, but even that, I was impressed. Like, I think I started out with a ridiculous number of slides, and I wound up probably almost having it just because it was so much information. So thank you. And I apologize if it was a lot. And the challenge for me on these sessions is like, how can we have deep, meaningful discussions about real topics, in such a short period of time? And maybe the answer is we can't, or maybe the answer is that these are just like the long cycles of the calendar that we just have ongoing, cyclic discussions about things, because it's just a lot.
Bravo.
What's up? We got some time. Who else? Dollar bill, y'all.
What's up? We got to see it last night. It was really neat with my son's telescope, and my husband has got this little, it's like a magnifying glass, but he looks at coins with it. He always tries to find anyway. But we set that on the lens of the telescope, and it was really pretty impressive. We couldn't take a picture of it. We've done that once with the moon, just straight up at the moon. But he puts his phone on top of the magnifying glass and just snaps a picture. We couldn't get it to work with last night because we were at an angle. And then we left and went about 3 miles from here to where we were higher up. And we saw just how you showed that with the two crossing, and I mean it was really neat. But yeah, I thought that was just very cool.
Taking pictures. We took a bunch of photos that just really didn't turn out. I used my iPhone for some, and you couldn't even tell. And I pulled out like the old Nikon, and of course I tried to go up to take photos, and it's out of batteries, and we had this whole cha-cha trying to get pictures and all this stuff. And then of course I don't know how to take night photos, so it took a lot of photos to even get that, but I can feel you on that. Thanks for your share. I'm glad you got to see that and experience that with your son. Super cool. I mean, really, we're talking, this is like a once in a lifetime, once in, several generations kind of event. So, I'm glad that I got to see it. And I'm also glad that I got to see or share what I saw with you guys, because it's cool stuff. All right. So Jody's done, Lindsay, who else? Julia. I know you dug this today, Julia.
I loved it. Yeah, I used to teach science to elementary kids. This is cool. I wanted to tell Bill and anybody else who feels bad for missing it, you can see it tonight. It's not the exact same, it's a little bit farther apart, but it's going to go on for about a month. So if you've got a clear sky, grab it quick. I got to see it last night, which was why I was a little bit late to our book meeting last night, but it was pretty far away and I didn't have a telescope, but it was very cool. There was one other thing. Oh, I was going to ask you, Stuart, as far as the magnetic thing, whatever, sorry, I'm not remembering, but the picture
vibes.
you had.
The planet vibes.
The planet vibes. Are they far enough out that they would reach each other? I think you said they're still 400 million miles apart. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so are those planet vibes going to connect and interact? Do they go out that far?
I would think so. I mean, at least for Jupiter, it's massive, right? I mean, looking at that and looking at how close those planets actually came. But if you remember our discussion about our own brain's electromagnetic field and our heart's electromagnetic field and our body's electromagnetic field, that electromagnetic field then becomes a generator for other waves, right? And so even if there's a body, there's still information being transmitted and received from those bioelectric bodies, right? But yeah, I tried to find something that showed the two of them together in the dance of the electromagnetic lines, but yeah, that's a great question, and that's just my guess, but
it's very cool. And you said that your feeling is that the Renaissance started 800 years ago when the last great conjunction. What do you think is going to happen now? And I'll leave it at that.
Well, your question brought up somebody that deserves some props, right? Poor Galilei, right? But I think he, I want to say 1210 was when he fired up his telescope, right? And then you had this event not too long afterwards. And so again, it's that conjunction was sort of known as like the dawn of the age of science, right? And the age of enlightenment and the age of reason and the truth seekers and all that kind of stuff. So it's interesting. What I think about this conjunction, I mean, if we're really talking about like going into the age of Aquarius and the great mutation and the great awakening, I mean, the implications for this are pretty amazing, right? And Leah's really, researched a lot of this stuff too. I know you guys, some of you guys that are into this, right? There's all kinds of great information out there. I think that there's an interesting play between the light and the dark, and this is a time where we see how that plays out. I think things may have to get a little worse before they get better, but I think in the long game, the future's so bright we'll have to wear shades, right? I see Jane. How are you, Jane? Haven't heard your voice in a while. What's going on?
Yeah, it's not.
No, it's not my voice.
Oh, it's not her.
What do you get up to when I'm not around then, you two? From PPC and e-commerce, that was great, Stuart. And the reason I'm just coming on is that I wanted to add my 2 pence about the electromagnetic fields of planets, because I can tell you as a paramedic on an ambulance, we hated going out when it was full moon, because obviously that was the night we could absolutely guarantee that we would get people calling us with mental health issues every full moon. And if you didn't know about it and you were getting a run of mental health cases on a particular night, you could bet that it was a full moon or getting close to. And if you don't believe that the planets have an effect on them, you need to go out on a shift with a paramedic on a full moon, because it's one after the other. And so I suspect exactly the same, that the magnetic fields from Saturn and Venus have exactly the same pull on us even this far away.
Thank you. Yeah, agreed. Cosmic rays, gravitational waves, black holes, all that cool, you know, it's just unbelievable, really. The more we learn about these things, the more I'm kind of blown away. Okay, I'm gonna take a deep breath. How about you guys? Bill's coming back for more.
Yeah, just I'll concur with what Neil said. Don't go out on a full moon night if you're on duty. It's just rubbish. It's actually something that Nicola had put in there about the animals. And the last time in this part of the earth we had a partial eclipse, I think it was nearly 20 odd years ago. All the animals, all the birds, everything stopped singing. I sat outside with my daughter just to witness it. That was it during the daylight here. It just sort of didn't get dark, but you could feel it changing. But all the animals stopped singing and chirping and doing whatever they were doing. Even the dogs just lay down. And it just shows you that if we don't pay enough attention to what goes on around us, what the universe is doing, perhaps maybe the government could pay attention as well. But that's another day. You can do that subject next week, Stuart.
You know what, that reminded me, Neil, what you were talking about, it reminded me of like the solar cycle that has to do with, and that's also this 11-year, 33-year cycle of solar flares, right? And you know, even without you know, worrying about other countries dropping EMPs and things like that, right? These solar flares that reach out, what, tens of millions of miles, like just unbelievable off of the surface of the sun. Those solar flares can cause electromagnetic disturbances here on the earth. And that's like what, 93 million miles away or whatever that is. Unbelievable. All right, guys, look at that. And we're still 4 minutes early. Anybody else? What's going on?
I've got one quick thought, Stuart.
Sharon.
Actually, two. So first of all, thank you. This was enlightening and very enjoyable, very knowledgeable. Pardon me while I'm driving. I've been driving for about 2 hours, and my son went with my husband to go hunting this morning. I had no idea they were going. And my husband sent me a photo of what they had, their hunters. And I think the photo was of several geese that they had shot this morning with a group of hunters. So it was interesting that you went through each of the seasons and came right back around to this season of hunting, which is now. You know, just being so close to the earth and being connected to that hunter-gatherer stage that we're basically not in, at least Americans. You know, many of us don't live that close to nature. It's just interesting that you brought that up. So I'm probably going to be making some geese of some kind tonight for dinner. My second thought was yesterday I observed this, you know, happening that we had with my mother, who is 93, and my daughter, who is 25. And I was thinking it's a neat generational thing. We were unplugged from all technology as we observed this. But my next thought is, being a teacher, you know, we don't look up into the sky anymore to find direction, to find where we should be on any given day or during the year. And so much of what I do now is with my students with a screen in front of them. We're all looking down. We're basically not communicating with each other. So I feel like there's so much that's lost. We're so disconnected because of the technology we have now. And wouldn't it be great to kind of get back to what I feel is a unifying way of educating our students? Because I feel like we're so disconnected and we're being divided. We don't have a common knowledge, if you will. I don't know if that's not making any sense. I tend to ramble. But it's just a little discouraging to me to see the lack of connection. I wish we could get back to something that connects us, either nationally through our education or globally. And in a way, we are connected globally. But I don't know if it's a unifying process. So anyway, my random thoughts for the day.
That's great. Yeah, I think, that's the challenge of technology, right? It brings us closer together. It has all kinds of great implications for education and communication and all kinds of stuff. And yet the trap is that, we can lose ourselves, lose our humanity, separate ourselves more and more from nature, right? We used to talk about the fall of man, right? And I always kind of felt like, that was marked by, when we first started, domesticating things and removing ourselves from nature. And so somewhere we got to find this balance. And I think it's great that you're thinking about, how we can educate the next generation on a lot of this stuff. And I have to say, like, I don't think I learned any of that in school, not one bit of it. Right. And so, yeah, I mean, and there's, and there's a reason why I kind of put, secret number one, because this is like ancient wisdom that has sort of been hidden. It's occult, which means hidden knowledge, right? All the high math and all these things, right? These are all sort of the secrets of things that, regular people just weren't allowed to know for so long. And then I think it just became obscured by the, let's say, the difference between the esoteric and the exoteric, right? So the esoteric is the sort of hidden knowledge of the zodiac that I was sharing with you. The exoteric is just this like, oh yeah, I'm a Capricorn, or I'm a this, or I'm a that. It's just sort of, so yeah, I think that maybe that's a lesson for us, and maybe an exercise in specialized knowledge, in terms of, if we really want to know stuff, ain't nobody going to teach you. You gotta go figure it out and find it out for yourself. And maybe that's just a good way to be in this world. All right, we're going to close out with our friend Therese. Hi, Therese. Happy Solstice. Happy New Year to you. Therese, you there? Otherwise, we're just going to say goodbye. All right, good enough. Therese, last time. 3, 2, 1. All right. Sorry to miss you. We'll chat more. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today, for being patient with me, and for giving me your attention, and for sharing this time with me. And hopefully we all learned something. We got inspired for the coming year. And I just personally would love to wish you all a happy solstice, happy Samhain, whatever winter holiday, Hanukkah, a Merry Christmas coming up here soon. And I know I'll probably see you guys, but this is my last general session of the year. So this is an auspicious thing for me as well. So thanks again for giving me the opportunity to share some stuff with you. And big thanks to John Lavenia for creating this platform and this community for us. And God bless you guys. Shine your light. And let's see, a couple of housekeeping real quick. What do we got? Ivier Barnabas doing corporate curios today at 5 p.m. Eastern. And then, oh my God, this evening I better get cracking. And then this evening we have another session of Adventures in Mindset with yours truly. And all kinds of good stuff going on. See you later today. See you tomorrow. Have a great day. Make it productive. God bless y'all. Cheers.